right, so today we are starting Chapter 3. So we are on the front of the Chapter 3 notes packet. This is day 1. If you're following along in your textbooks, this is 3.1 and 3.2. It is our first day for solving equations. So here is our first equation for today. X minus 7 equals negative 5. Now, when you are solving equations, the whole point is to figure out what the unknown variable is. So we want to get x by itself. It's called isolating our variable. To isolate the variable, we use inverse operations or opposites. So if you're, in this case, we're subtracting, or the 7 is negative, what's the opposite of negative 7? Positive 7 or plus 7. So we're going to add 7 to both sides. The whole point is that makes the 7s on the left go away, and then we're left with just the x, and the equals will drop down, and then you just have to do the math over here. What's negative 5 plus 7? 2. So x equals 2. So part B, for example, 1 says negative 7 equals 13 plus w. So right now the 13 is positive or plus. How do you get rid of adding 13? Subtracting. So I'm going to subtract 13 from both sides of the equal sign. That's how we keep our equation the same. Keep the expressions equivalent. What is negative 7 minus 13? Negative 7 minus 13. Negative 20. Okay, so a lot of people will stop there, but I don't want you to do that. I want you to rewrite this always with the variable in the front, okay? Don't tell me negative 20 equals w. Tell me w equals negative 20, all right? Raise your hand if you have any questions. All right, here's part C. So same goal, we want to get the variable isolated. Right now we're multiplying the x by 3. How do you undo multiplying? You divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. On the left, you're left with 1x or just x. And then on the right, 33 divided by 3 is 11. Questions? All right, so in D, we have x that's divided by 3 equals negative 15. How do you undo dividing? Multiply. So we are going to multiply both sides of this equation by 3. The 3's are going to go away. It leaves you with 1x or just x equals, on the right side, negative 15 times 3 is negative 45. All right, here's E. We have negative 5 times y equals 25. How do you undo multiplying by negative 5? We divide both sides by negative 5. Don't forget to divide by a negative 5, okay? You can definitely get some sign errors here very easily. So make sure you're going slow enough that you're keeping track of those signs. On the left, a negative 5 divided by a negative 5 gives us 1 or 1y. And then 25 divided by negative 5 is negative 5. So there's 2 ways to approach a problem like this. You can clean up the signs by rewriting it, or you can just handle the signs the way they are. So if you want to just handle it the way it is, you would have to undo adding negative 7. Well, we undo adding by subtracting, right? So you'd have to subtract negative 7. But what's subtracting a negative 7? It's like adding 7. Or you could just clean it up and then deal with your signs. So we know that adding -7 is the same thing as -7, and then you'd add 7. Either way, you end up adding 7 to 13. So hopefully both routes give you W equals 20. Questions? All right, here's G. This one's a similar idea. We're adding -15. So how do you want to do adding a negative? Subtracting a negative, but minus a negative is plus, right? So yeah, we'll end up adding 15 to both sides. Does everyone understand why we do it that way? Oh, everybody all right? So we end up with, wait for it. Yes, there it is. Y equals 9. Any questions? All right, here's H. Again, this is kind of another little twist that you might see when you are multiplying by a fraction. Remember, the whole point is that we want to get the variable by itself. So A is the same thing as 1A. So you want to turn this into 1. The way we do that is we multiply by the reciprocal. That way we have something to divide out with the 3 and the 2. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3 halves. That way on the left, the 3 simplify to 1, the 2 simplify to 1. So you end up with 1A equals, and then you just have to do all the math over here. Do you guys know how to type fractions into your calculator? Yeah. There's an ABC button. Most calculators, you would just hit 4 times 3 ABC 2 equals, and it should give you 6. If it doesn't, raise your hand and I can help you with your calculator. All right. Any ideas how you want to approach this one? Yes?
Subtract 21.
Yeah, so you might want to clean up the signs first. And remember that minus a negative is like a plus sign, right? Plus 21. And you want to do adding by subtracting. So we're going to subtract 21 from both sides of the equal sign. 13 minus 21 is -8. And that equals W. Or W equals -8. So this one's kind of tricky as well because you got to remember that this goes with the A. So it's 15 minus A. The minus has nothing to do with the 15 right now. This 15 is positive. How do we get rid of a positive 15? We subtract it. And then that negative or that minus is still with the A. So right now I have -A equals 2. And then I'm going to divide by -1 to give me just A equals -2. Any questions on this one? This one is more like a 2-step equation than a 1-step equation. These are tricky. Any questions? This is a good one to plug your answer back in. You could always plug this number back in for the variable and see if the equation works. If you have 15 minus -2, that's like 15 plus 2, which is 17, so this checks out, okay? So if you're ever unsure about your answer, just plug it back in and see if you get a true statement, like 5 equals 5 or 17 equals 17. If you get something like 10 equals 12 or something that's not true, you know you made a mistake. Questions? All right, here's part K. So anytime you see parentheses, ask yourself, what are those parentheses doing? Are they doing anything here? Not really. We can't distribute to get rid of them. It's all just plus signs, right? So like the associative property of addition sort of comes into play. Like it doesn't really matter if the parentheses are around the W and the 7 or the 7 and the 2. They're not doing anything. They're not helpful. They're just kind of there. So I am actually going to forget about them and combine like terms on the left. What are our like terms? The 7 and the 2. So we can go ahead and add those and make it a 9 and just sort of forget the parentheses are even there. All right, and then I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. And of course, I get a W of negative 8. Questions? All right, here's L. All right, so we have 3 times 2 plus 1 is how we're going to change the one on the left to an improper fraction. And then on the right, we need to do 7 times 4 plus 5 to make them improper. You can't really do a lot with fractions when they're mixed numbers. It's really hard to multiply. It's really hard to add. So just go ahead and make them improper first. Now you can use the reciprocal trick. Sometimes those students have a hard time deciding which one to use the reciprocal of, okay? So we pick the one that's with the variable. So 7 over 3 is the one that's being multiplied by the x. So this is the one we're going to flip and multiply both sides by. All right, and then on the left side, the 3's go away and the 7's go away. On the right, multiply across the top, you get 99. Across the bottom, you get 49. Any questions? Don't then go make it a mixed number. A lot of you are doing that on your test. It's just an extra step. It actually makes grading harder for me, and then I get angry. So just leave them improper. Any questions? All right. Now, in this case, the parentheses are a little different than the last time we saw parentheses because these do mean something. What do you think we need to do here? Distribute that negative. Yes, we are subtracting this whole quantity. So we need to distribute that sign to everything in the parentheses. And then after that, we can forget the parentheses were even there. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So it's like a negative 1 times x, which is negative x, and negative 1 times negative 4, which is positive 4. Now, before I can start getting things away from the x, I need to go ahead and combine like terms. I have negative 2 plus 4. And then go ahead and start solving. So to undo adding 2, we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. And then every year I see someone who just wants to stop here. Why is this not okay? Yes?
Because the x is negative.
The x is not by itself. It has a negative sign. So what are you going to do?
Multiply both sides by negative.
Yeah, you can multiply both sides by negative 1, actually, or you could divide by negative 1. It does not matter. It does the same thing. It changes the signs on both sides, and then we're going to rewrite it with the x in the front. What are your questions? All right. Any ideas on this one? Multiplied by the reciprocal. Good. And again, you pick the one with the variable next to it to flip and multiply. So on the left, the 4's go away, the 3's go away. They go away. We're left with an A. Like a rapper over here. Equals 2 times 4 gives me 8. 5 times 3 gives me 15. There's no common factors of 8 and 15, so I am done. Questions? All right, so chapter 1, we looked at problems like this, but it wouldn't have this last sentence. It wouldn't say find the number. You were just told to write an equation to model the situation in the sentence that's given, okay? So we're actually going to do that like we were doing in chapter 1, but then we're actually going to solve it now that we know how to solve. So this says 82 decreased by a number is 198. We want to find the number. So just like in chapter 1, first we have to define the variable. So I'm going to use an N for number. You can use X or T or whatever. Then I'm going to write an equation. So 82 decreased by a number. That's 82 minus N. Is where my equal sign goes. And then 198. Find the number. So how am I going to do this one? Yes, I need to subtract what? 82 from both sides of the equal sign. Good. When I do that, I get negative N equals 116. Am I done? No. What do I need to do? Divide or multiply. Yeah, either one. Divide by negative 1. And I'm left with N equals negative 116. What are your questions? All right. $22 more than a number is 31. Find the number. Anyone have any ideas? Yep, set up a variable. I'm going to use N. Let N equal a number. Yes, sir, what'd you get? 22 plus N equals 31. Or plus A, or plus X, or plus whatever. All right, this is a pretty easy one to solve. What do we do to both sides? Subtract the 22. N equals 9. All right, 2 more. So close I can taste it. Four-thirds of a number is 4.82. Woo! I'm glad for those calculators today. So, set up a variable. I'm going to use A. So now I'm going to let A equal that number. What will my equation look like if I'm using an A? Yes?
4/3 A equals 4.82.
Yeah, 4/3 A equals 4.82. Now, I don't want to do the math here. I don't know how else to say. Going from fraction to decimal to fraction, back and forth, and multiplying, it's just too much. This is one where I would definitely, even as the teacher, be like, let's use a calculator. So In the calculator, I am going to multiply both sides by 3/4. So on the left, the A's are gone. On the right, you need to type this in. Again, if you are struggling with how to type these things in the calculator, you need to let me know. But everyone should practice, and I put the answer up there early so that you can see if you actually get it. Okay? Take a minute and do it. Typing fractions in, depending on the calculator, might be a little bit challenging or a little hard to find where the right buttons are. So practice it during the notes so that when you're doing your homework or taking a test, you know how to do it. If you come up during a test and ask me how to use a calculator, I will just ha ha ha. Okay? That's why we practice in class. Does anyone need assistance? So this one says, John paid $7.25 for a hot dog, a bag of chips, and a soda. So that's the total, right? $7.25. The hot dog was $3.50. The chips were $1.10. How much did the soda cost? So when you buy something, what are you doing with all the prices? Adding them up. So I'm going to write an equation, and I am going to let C represent the cost of the soda. That's what I'm trying to find. All right, so we have $3.50. That's the price of the hot dog, right? Plus $1.10. That's the chips. Plus, we don't know the cost of the soda. That's our unknown. That's what we're solving for. And that equals $7.25. All right, so we have some like terms on the left side. Again, calculators would be great. This isn't a challenging one to do by hand, but, you know, if you got the tools in your hand, use them. All right, how would I get C by itself? Subtract 460 from both sides. Does anyone know what C equals? Yes, sir. 265, indeed. And we're talking about money, so put a dollar sign in there. All right. Don't forget to summarize. Some of your notes were missing your summaries. Gonna check them. All right, so what did we learn today? Nothing. Okay, so if you did not learn anything, maybe you want to take learned out and put reviewed. But we talked about equations, specifically how to solve them, okay? If you're unsure about something, write yourself a little note about it. We can talk about it when we start class Monday after marking our notes. And you can also write yourself a nice sample test question. That's a really great way to study in the future.